Hi, my name is Pat Heenan. I'm from Ravenna, and I have been in recovery since I was 66. And my drug of choice was alcohol. Actually, the only drug I was ever involved with was alcohol. And today I am a retired teacher. I am a Lyft driver. I mostly work with Open United Recovery, which is a recovery community organization. And I have two grown children and two grown stepdaughters, and that is about it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your very full life to share a bit of your story. So, could you start off by sharing some of your childhood?
Okay, I grew up in a family of 5 kids. I was the oldest, and we weren't poor, we weren't rich. It was a pretty stable, happy Catholic family. The only, I guess the relevant thing is that I am at least a third generation alcoholic. One of my grandfathers, one of the other grandfathers supposedly didn't drink, but he used to disappear on 3-day benders. And then my father, I got to see decline into definite alcoholism during my childhood. So I had that in my background. I was a very good student, a very bad athlete. Had red hair and was skinny, and had some things I was very self-conscious about.
Gotcha. So, when did you first start drinking?
Not particularly early, probably 15.
Okay.
Before that I had taken a sip of somebody's beer or something like that, but by the time I was 15 or 16, I was, I think I really got to like alcohol with friends. Somebody would get a six-pack from an older brother or whatever, and I really enjoyed it, and I really felt much more relaxed and much more socially functional and much more able to have a good time and laugh and not be self-conscious. And it didn't take long before I thought that was the cure-all, and all I needed was alcohol all the time.
Yeah. Did you start to experience any consequences in those early years?
In the early years, no. I would say no. I mean, a neighbor and I got picked up by the cops when we were drunk out of our minds walking down the street at midnight, but the neighbor's father was a state trooper, so they just drove us home, let us out. That was about it.
Is there any is there a story from your active use that really paints a picture of what your alcoholism was like?
Yeah, not a very vivid picture maybe, but I started college. I was born in November, so I started all my grades a year earlier than most people. I was 17 when I went to college, and just because I didn't turn 18 until November that year, and I would go to parties occasionally and usually concentrate on the drinking part and then try to get more social, probably very awkwardly and sometimes inappropriately. And but as soon as I turned 18 and I could buy beer, because in New York State, when I was a kid, at 18 you could walk into a liquor store and buy all the liquor you wanted. And I didn't do that, but I would go downtown and buy a six-pack during the day and drink it during the evening, and that got to be a very regular thing. There was a part of my freshman year where I had no roommate, so that made that very convenient. So that was already at barely 18. Secret drinking. And it didn't particularly my grades were still very good the first 2 years, and then I took a year off to kind of contemplate what I wanted to do. Got my first apartment and did a lot of solitary drinking. Never was a bar guy. I would go to bars with people, but it wasn't any place I particularly enjoyed. And so by the time I was 19, I was probably drinking just about every day. It was starting to affect things like my academic work. I was definitely in pretty bad shape when I woke up a lot of mornings. And I'd say by the time I was 20, I knew I had a problem, which is, do the math, it took me another 46 years to get over it. And during all that time, when I said I was a third generation alcoholic, they were all very well behaved alcoholics. They didn't crash cars, lose jobs, nobody got divorced, they didn't hit their spouses or their kids or anything like that. It was part of the, I would say, Irish American culture I grew up in, where everybody drank, whenever two adults got together, and there were people you'd kind of roll your eyes at because they got carried away, but nobody ever said anybody was an alcoholic. So I knew that this was doing me no good anymore. It was doing me harm. But I thought, as long as I behaved well, it wasn't doing me any good. But I felt I needed it. It was already addiction by that point. I had to have it. It's just an experience I don't think people understand if they don't have an addiction. So I went on from there, tried to be a well-behaved alcoholic. It's at a point in my late 20s, I got a job at a ski area where everybody was drinking all the time, on the job and off, and that was a very easy atmosphere to live in because it was everybody, not just me.
Right.
And when I turned 30, I believe, I decided to quit. And I did quit for almost 2 years. And from my point of view now, I say to people, there's abstinence where you're very uncomfortable, sobriety where you are comfortable with not drinking or using, and then there's recovery, which is the real thing. And I never got past abstinence. It was I pretty much isolated because the whole atmosphere around me was about going to bars or drinking with friends and so on. So I didn't do much of anything except go to work. That ended with a bang, with a car crash. I totaled a car, fortunately in a one-car accident. Wasn't hurt. Got a DUI. Had to go to a few AA meetings ordered by the court. And they were not anything that I saw much value in for me. Let me see, when I was 33, I started dating the woman who I would later marry, and 3 years later I moved in with her, and 3 years after that we got married, and I tried to hide my drinking. She knew I drank. She didn't think I drank to excess, especially. And eventually she did find out. And when she found out, she was very angry and resentful. And we started doing less and less together. We had a son. She had 3 daughters when I married her, and I adopted the youngest daughter, who she had adopted in the hospital. So 4 kids and a wife, and still kind of a well-behaved alcoholic, but I desperately wanted to quit by that time, and would try and make it, maybe make it 2.5 days. And I didn't want to ask for help because I did not want to be exposed as an alcoholic, even to people in meetings. I did not want to be exposed by not drinking anymore and people wanting to know why I didn't drink anymore and having to admit that I was an alcoholic. Most of my father died at 65, my only uncle at 57, one of my grandfathers at 56, and the other grandfather of alcoholism in his 40s. So by the time I was in my 60s, I thought, well, I'm near the end, nothing I can do. And then there was a Thanksgiving dinner that I was supposed to make. My wife worked second shift for most of the time we were married, and I had to learn to cook because she didn't particularly like to, and if I wasn't cooking, she would leave macaroni and cheese or hot dogs or something for me and the kids, and that, I learned to make dinner. I became the cook in the family. So Thanksgiving, when I was 66, I was supposed to make Thanksgiving dinner for about 15 people, mostly my wife's family. And I knew for a couple weeks ahead of time, because I had had liver problems before, that my liver was giving out, which meant I would be sleeping more and more and more and less able to stay awake and function. Thanksgiving morning, I got up, went to the store for a few things, came home, took a nap. Got up and chopped some things, took a nap. Was trying to make my way through Thanksgiving with all these people. And by noon, I told my wife, I have to go to bed. It's my liver. I can't get through this. I can't make dinner. And I went to bed. She made some kind of excuse about my back acting up or something like that. They got through dinner without me. I slept for something like for 30 plus hours, never got out of bed, they had brought me a bottle of Gatorade to drink after everybody left, and I never touched it. And my wife went to work the next day and came home, and so about 6 o'clock that night, she was standing in the doorway of my room with our adult son over her shoulder, telling me to quit drinking or get out. And I knew she would follow through. And I was 66, already lived longer than most of my male forebears. And I figured if she threw me out and I was retired, I would be dead in a year or two. And not just dead, but people would say he did it to himself. My family, I believed, figured they were better off without me. And faced with that, I figured I had to quit and accept whatever help people were going to give me. And I went to a meeting that was chaired by our friend Jessica here at the RCO, our executive director. And it was not like any meeting I had ever been to. People did not feel constrained in what they were saying. And I guess I thought I was going to be with alcoholics. Didn't know. And there are all these people talking about heroin and meth and, prison and jail and losing their kids and being homeless and all this stuff. And I liked that meeting because it wasn't about guilt and shame. It was about moving forward.
How did you repair those relationships, and what are your relationships with your family like today?
All credit to them. My wife was dubious for a little while, whether I was really okay. But before too long, I would come home and talk about smart meetings, and she could tell that there was something genuine going on there. My kids, I have a daughter who has mild cognitive disability, and I don't think she quite understood the situation. She did. She knew that, what an alcoholic was, and that I quit drinking, and that was a good thing. My son, I had confided in a bit for several years before I quit drinking. I had told him when he was 11 and about to start middle school, I said, you have all this history in your family. You be very careful with alcohol and postpone when you start drinking at the very least, because you really have this in your family.
Yeah.
And he had caught me sneaking drinks once or twice, and we had conversations about that. So he kind of knew what was going on. And he was, as I said, he was behind my wife when she was giving me the ultimatum. And he was telling her to go a little easier on me. So anyway, they were all within, in no time, they were very, very supportive.
What do you do today to maintain your mental health? Clearly, your liver is doing better. Doesn't seem like napping all the time and having to feel the need to sleep as much. So what do you do to take care of your mental and physical health today?
I have it pretty easy. I'm retired and divorced. Even though my wife didn't throw me out when we both retired, partly because I had really damaged that relationship, she decided it would make sense for us to do our separate things, and I didn't really have an objection to that, except as a matter of pride. So I'm happily divorced. I'm retired, but I have 2 retirement jobs. I get a lot of fulfillment out of working here. Through one of the meetings that I had to drive somebody to, didn't have any particular interest in, but it's Refuge Recovery, which is based on Buddhist meditation. And I learned to meditate, and it's become part of my daily life. Another program is called Running to Be Well. And I met Keith Johnston and started doing that program once a week, and it really sold me on the benefits of exercise. Even though I'm very busy and I don't exercise as much as I should be, I do appreciate what it's doing for me. So I have it pretty easy to begin with, and meditation, exercise, and the fulfillment out of doing what I do here.
So as you had shared, you're in retirement and you have a, pretty easy life today. What dreams or hopes do you have for your future?
I just want to stay healthy enough to keep doing what I'm doing right now. I do want our place here to thrive. I think it can do a lot of good things. We need money, and we're working on that. And if we get money, I think we will do very well. I think we're very clear that we don't want to become like a billing institution. We want to keep our genuineness no matter what. And if we do, I think we'll do a lot of good. For a small population, Portage County, it's not the world, but
we're making a difference in people's lives, and it is that integrity part of it, of staying true to the mission. And you guys have overcome so many hurdles already to be able to be at where you're today. You know, beautiful, beautiful space, great people that make up that space, and it is just, you know, continuing to take the action to keep moving it forward. Which you know, you guys have a great group of people here, so it's pretty exciting. Can you share some hope or some inspiration for somebody who's maybe struggling out there?
Well, you know, why don't I address it to somebody who's been struggling a long time and getting away with it,
Yeah.
you know, like I did. And I would just like people to know that it's never too late, even at 66 or 76 for that matter. That the feelings of most of the fears that people have about it are basically in their heads. They will probably find more support than they expect. They will probably almost certainly find a lot more joy in life than they expect. You know, it's. I think most people honestly who are still having fun with their drug or alcohol don't need to quit, but most people who have an active addiction are not having fun anymore, and it's only going to get better. They're going to be able to enjoy life with clarity, and you know, just if it's not fun anymore, it's probably time to explore the alternatives.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, thank you so much for coming out today and sharing your story. I really appreciate your willingness to share, you know, some other pathways of recovery and being so candid of your experience and how you were able to get where you are today, and finding that freedom and recovery was absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Aaron.